Hello again, beautiful people, and welcome back to another session of Do It Right with Dr. Ansu. That's me. I hope you've been benefiting from some of the osteopathic treatment videos I've shared so far on my channel, but today we're going to take it again from the osteopathic to the medical side of things and talk about something that's on the mind of a lot of people across the globe right now, which is the COVID-19 vaccine. I wasn't really planning on making a video about this vaccine, just because I feel like there's just so much information out there and I just didn't want to add another video on top of that. But as the vaccine rollout is becoming more available, I have had a lot more patients coming in with questions about the vaccine itself, its safety, its efficacy, just trying to figure out which one is better. And I figured if my patients had these questions, chances are there's a lot more people out there with similar thoughts and questions and concerns on their minds. So I'm hoping that with this video, I'm able to answer some of the questions that you may be thinking about and wondering where to find more information on. Please do know this is in no way an extensive answer to all the questions you may have. There is just so much information out there. This is very new. Things are constantly changing. More research is coming out. And I do hope that if you have any questions that were not answered today, that you do go on some of the websites that I have added the link to at the bottom of my video to get some of your questions answered. And with that said, let's get started. So before going into the COVID-19 vaccine itself, let's talk about vaccines. Why do we vaccinate people? What is the purpose of a vaccine? Because chances are, if you understand how a vaccine works, you will understand more on why we vaccinate in the first place. If you saw my video on acute sinusitis, I had talked about the mucosal layer and the hair cells inside our nose and our sinuses being our external defense system. That along with our tears, saliva, our skin, the stomach acid, all of these compose the external defense system, trying to keep all those germs out. But if you've ever been sick, you know that they don't always do a good job of doing that. Sometimes the germs do come in, and at that time our immune system, which is our internal defense system, kicks in. The immune system is responsible for triggering a response against the germ that our body has come across, or more accurately the pathogen, which can be a virus, a bacteria, fungus, or parasite. And the immune system does this by creating antibodies to the antigens on the pathogens. So I know what you're thinking about: antigens, pathogens, antibodies. Please give me definitions, right? So let me give you a very quick crash course on immunology. An antigen is a molecular structure that is made up of proteins found on the pathogen, which is the germ, which triggers the immune response. The immune system kicks in and responds by producing antibodies against these antigens, specifically made against these antigens. Our body is this amazing machine that knows when something does not belong there and produces a response. So there are thousands of antibody producing memory cells in our body that has been made in response to an antigen that it came across, whether through direct exposure from that particular pathogen or through a vaccine. Imagine them being like soldiers waiting to attack when they are exposed to this particular antigen. But our body is also very smart because it knows that there are things called self-antigens, which it does not direct a response to, and that there are non-self or external antigens to which it produces a response to. So let me give you an example. Here's a drawing of a red blood cell with proteins that make up the various antigens found on the red blood cells. So we've got the A antigen, the B antigen, and also the rhesus protein antigen. So if you've ever been asked what your blood type is and you are saying O positive, O negative, AB negative, you're essentially saying which antigens your body has. So if you are somebody who is an A positive, what you're saying is your body's antigens, your red blood cells have the A antigen and the rhesus protein antigen. If you're a B negative, you have the B antigen, but you do not have the A antigen or the rhesus protein antigen. This is important because if you're getting a blood transfusion and you are an O negative person, but you get anything but an O negative blood, chances are your body is going to see that as non-self, and it will create antibodies against those A antigen, B antigens, or the rhesus protein antigens. This is why it's so important to know what the proper blood type is. As mentioned earlier, these antibodies are kind of like soldiers waiting to attack an antigen. But that initial response when the body is exposed to a pathogen is slow. But our body is also very smart, and it makes these memory cells. So the next time you are exposed to the same pathogen, the response is a lot faster. And this is the role of a vaccine. Vaccines are either dead or weakened virus or virus materials that your body is exposed to. So if you are ever exposed to the actual pathogen, your body recognizes the antigen and creates the antibodies immediately because it's already created the memory cells for it. For the sake of time, I'm just going to stick to the questions that are directly about the COVID-19 vaccine. So for starters, not only am I planning on getting the vaccine, but being a healthcare provider, I have been fortunate enough to get both of my vaccine doses, and so far I'm doing well. I got the Moderna vaccine, and I had some of those more common side effects that people talk about, as far as the soreness of the arm and some mild flu-like symptoms, which lasted for about 48 hours and then went away. As you can see in the chart, there's over 200 different types of vaccines that are in all various forms of developmental stages right now. The ones that are available in the United States currently, which is the Moderna and the Pfizer-BioNTech vaccines, and the most recent Johnson & Johnson's vaccine, are not live viruses. So the Moderna and the Pfizer vaccines are messenger RNA vaccine. Essentially what that means is that they are the blueprints of a spike protein of the antigen that we were talking about earlier, that is administered into the blood. So when the body comes across this messenger RNA, it uses our own cells to make the protein and then creates antibodies against it and creates memory cells. The Johnson & Johnson's vaccine is a viral vector vaccine, which means that it uses an adenovirus, which is a relatively harmless virus that causes the common cold symptoms. It uses a virus to package the mRNA, the molecular genetic material, and uses that to create the response. If you're getting the Pfizer vaccine, it's spaced about 21 days from the first dose. If you're getting the Moderna vaccine, it's spaced about 28 days from the first dose. If you're getting the Johnson & Johnson's vaccine, it's just a one-time dose. You could essentially space it out to 42 days for both the Pfizer and Moderna vaccines, but it is recommended to get it within the 21 or 28 day period. The reason for the 2 shots is essentially for a better immunity. If you receive the first dose, your body is just getting acquainted to it, is recognizing the viral protein, and it is starting to build up that immune response. That second dose is giving you that full, strong immunity and response that your body creates. And that is why a lot of people, when they receive that second dose, get some of those side effects, because it's your body's way of showing that it is building up that immunity and is having that response. The Pfizer vaccine was noted to have about a 52% efficacy after its first dose and about a 95% efficacy after the 2 doses. The Moderna vaccine was noted to have about an 80.2% efficacy after the first dose and about a 95% efficacy after both doses. The Johnson & Johnson's vaccine is noted to have about a 66% efficacy in the grand scheme of the various viruses that are out there, but approximately an 80% efficacy as far as serious health concerns are considered. It takes about 14 days for immunity to fully kick in after the first dose, and this is why it's very important that you still protect yourself, because technically within those 14 days, if you're exposed to the COVID-19 virus, you can still get infected. Also, because there are other variants, the UK and the South Africa and Brazil variant that the vaccines do not have as great of an efficacy to, you can get both doses and still get COVID-19. However, your symptoms will be a lot milder because you've had this vaccine and because your body knows how to build up this immune response. Some of the more common side effects from the COVID-19 vaccine are pain at the site of injection, some redness or soreness of the arm, some mild swelling. You can have mild flu-like symptoms, so fever, chills. For some people, it could be slightly higher temperature fever. You can have body aches, muscle aches, joint pain, headaches, nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, but none of these symptoms really last for longer than 48 hours. There are some people who may have an anaphylactic reaction, and that has been seen in some of these cases, but everyone who had the reaction had a history of allergies. So if you are someone who has a history of allergies, it's highly recommended that you go to a place where they are going to make sure that they watch you for about 30 minutes in case there was an allergic response. The best thing to do to address the side effects from the COVID-19 vaccine is symptomatic treatment. So making sure that you're staying hydrated. If you're feeling soreness or swelling at the site of injection, using ice or a cold patch. If you're feeling body aches or fever, taking some Tylenol, and essentially resting as much as possible. As far as getting sick from the COVID-19 vaccine, the answer is yes and no. Yes, you can get some of the side effects, and you may have some fever and some of those mild symptoms I talked about, but no, you cannot get COVID-19 from the COVID-19 vaccine. As I mentioned earlier, the vaccines that are available so far do not carry any of the live or part of the virus itself. So there's no way you can actually get the infection if you don't have the actual component of the virus itself. Even if you got COVID-19, you should still get vaccinated because there's not enough information that shows how much immunity comes from natural immunity and how long it lasts. So the recommendation is that after 90 days from your initial exposure that you get vaccinated. COVID-19 vaccine cannot give you a positive result on a COVID-19 test. Because the COVID-19 vaccine is giving you antibodies, not the actual virus, versus the COVID-19 test is testing you for the virus. However, if you were to get a COVID-19 antibody test, you may see that as a positive result. The makers of the Moderna vaccine have claimed that the immunity from the vaccine can last up to a year, but this is still being tested. But so far, they've noticed that the vaccine immunity lasts for about 4 to 5 months. The Moderna and the Johnson & Johnson vaccine is authorized for anyone who's 18 and older, while the Pfizer vaccine is authorized for anyone who's 16 years of age and older. There is no recommendation for any specific group of people to not get the vaccine. However, if you received the first dose of COVID-19 and had an anaphylactic reaction to that vaccine, it is recommended that you should not get the second dose. However, if you have any other medical problems or a history of allergies, you can still get the vaccine. I would highly recommend that you do consult your doctor and discuss before you decide to get the vaccine. Yes, you could get the COVID-19 vaccine even if you're pregnant. Initially, there were some concerns because it wasn't tested enough on pregnant women, but as far as the various studies that have been done, and just from the benefits that they're noticing, there's a higher risk of a pregnant woman getting complications from getting the COVID-19 infection, including pulmonary embolism, death, than it is from the actual COVID-19 vaccine. So the American Society of Obstetrics and Gynecology, as well as reproductive medicine, have been recommending that pregnant women can get vaccinated. As far as vaccine availability, that really depends on where you are. It's varied depending on which country you're in, as well as which state and county you're in. So for example, Israel, as far as countries, is leading when it comes to how many people have been vaccinated compared to some of the other countries. And even within the United States, various states are recommending various things. So currently most states are somewhere in the phase 1B, 1C, where they are trying to get more of the essential workers, teachers, postal workers vaccinated. To find out more information on what phase your state is in, I would highly recommend contacting the state health department to get an idea of the vaccine protocol. The components of the COVID-19 vaccine mostly consist of the messenger RNA, as well as lipid or oil bubbles, which essentially the messenger RNA is packaged in. It also consists of the saline solutions, sugar, and the buffer, which together make up the liquid component of the vaccine. So there have been some patients who have been concerned about whether there's any animal or fetal product in the vaccines. Out of the vaccines that are available in the United States, the Moderna and Pfizer vaccines do not contain any animal or fetal product. The Johnson & Johnson vaccine does use fetal products from a stem cell line called PERC6, which comes from an 18-week-old aborted fetus from 1985. So if you are someone who is considering not getting vaccinated for religious purposes or for other reasons because of this particular issue, I would highly recommend still considering the Moderna or the Pfizer vaccines. There are several people who are concerned about why this vaccine got manufactured so quickly, and because of it, if it's safe. And the answer is yes, it is safe. Usually vaccines go through a long period of manufacturing, trials, and bureaucracy, really. So it takes about 10 to 15 years and over $31 to $68 million to just make a vaccine. Due to the emergent status of the COVID-19 global pandemic, a lot of those red tape was reduced, and there was also a lot of cooperation worldwide. So for example, the scientists were able to understand and get the genomic structure of the COVID-19 SARS-CoV-2 virus within 10 days of the first case in Wuhan, China. This is partially because while COVID-19 is new to us, the type of virus isn't. SARS-CoV-2, which is a virus responsible for COVID-19, is part of the coronavirus category, which has been around for years, which scientists have been studying for over 50 years. And because of that, they have the knowledge of its structure, its genome, and how it functions. And that knowledge was used to quickly understand how this particular virus works and to create vaccine against it. That, along with the government funding, where some of the financial burden was taken care of through the government, has helped support the expedition of this virus. It has been thoroughly tested. Each of the vaccines that we've talked about in the United States had over 30,000 people participate in each trial and have been studied since. Also keep in mind that emergency use is not the same as a regular use vaccine, and the COVID-19 vaccines are being used under the EUA, which is the Emergency Use Authorization, to be used for this pandemic. We don't yet know if this is going to be a vaccine that needs to be done every year, kind of like the flu vaccine, because we don't know enough about how the immunity works and about the variants and strains. So the answer to that question will be time will tell. We do know that some of the vaccine companies are already working on a booster shot if need be, but time will tell. Yes, please, yes. If you can get the vaccine, please get the vaccine. I have patients who say that, they know people who've had very mild case, and, if that's the case, then why even get the vaccine? Well, that's because you don't know how you will respond to the actual virus. Yes, there have been people who've had mild cases, and yet the death toll from this virus in the United States alone in this past year has been over 500,000 and over 2.5 million worldwide. You don't know how you will respond to the virus, and you may have a mild response, but you don't know who you're transferring it to, whether that's a family member or a friend who may have a lot worse effect to the virus. So for your protection, as well as the protection of those you care about, I highly recommend getting the vaccination. I hope I was able to answer some of the questions you may have had about the COVID-19 vaccine. If there are any questions that you would still want answered, you can certainly ask those questions in the comment section, or follow the links that I have in the information part. If you like this video, please hit the thumbs up button. As I said, if you have any questions or concerns, you can share that in the comment section. And if you've not subscribed to my channel, please subscribe, and I will see you in 2 weeks. But until then, please take care, stay safe, and please return to learn how to do it right with Dr. Ansu. Bye.